According to the National Association of Realtors, over a quarter of first-time homebuyers say that saving for a down payment is their #1 challenge. But in Maryland, it doesn't have to be. Thanks to the Maryland Mortgage Program, you can buy a home with very little, even zero cash out of pocket. Forget borrowing from your 401k, asking family for gift funds, or spending years trying to save $30,000, $40,000. The Maryland Mortgage Program is one of the most powerful, flexible, and accessible homebuyer programs that I've ever seen. Yet most people still don't realize how much it can help them. Many buyers believe you need 10 or 20% down. But in reality, most home buyers today need as little as 3% out of pocket. But don't forget about closing costs. These can add another 3 to 4%. You know, it's tricky to pinpoint exactly because some costs are fixed, like an appraisal or your settlement fee, and other costs vary by the county. For example, Charles County charges a 0.5% transfer tax, Anne Arundel at 0.85%, and Baltimore City is variable and can easily be greater than 1.25% of the sale price. Now, using a $400,000 home in Anne Arundel County as an example, your total cash needed, the 3% down payment and the 3.75% closing costs, which is 6.75% of your sale price, is about $27,000. Now, to calculate your exact numbers, check out my Maryland mortgage and closing cost calculator that I linked in the description. It's incredibly accurate, and it correctly calculates all the closing costs, transfer taxes, and everything for all Maryland counties. I really think you'll enjoy it. Now, here's how the Maryland Mortgage Program makes homeownership possible today without waiting to save up that $27,000. You see, MMP offers down payment assistance equal to 3%, 4%, or up to 5% of your loan amount. Now, using this example, that's $12,000, $16,000, or up to $20,000. So yes, 3 different amounts that you get to choose. We'll talk about that later. Now, when you take this money, you pay 0% interest and you make no monthly payments. However, the amount of money you take, it is repayable when you either sell the house or you go ahead to refinance. You can also use all loan types, conventional, FHA, and VA loan programs. Now, you might be wondering, how do I choose between the different levels, right? The 3%, 4%, 5%. You know, it depends on the amount of closing help that you're getting from the seller, how much personal cash you have, and your comfort with the monthly payments. You know, the more down payment assistance you get, the slightly higher the interest rate. Now, typically, the 5% DPA will make the most sense for most people, but each situation is unique. So let's get back to our example to illustrate this better. Someone buying a house in Anne Arundel County for $400,000, they would need approximately $27,000 in total cash to close in a normal scenario without any other assistance. If that same buyer chooses the 5% MMP down payment assistance plan, they would receive down payment assistance of $19,400, which means they only need $7,600 to purchase their home. But that's not the full story. If you negotiate with the seller that they pay the $7,600, which is becoming a little bit more common in today's mid-2025 market where inventory levels are higher and houses are sitting a little longer, you can legitimately buy that house with zero money out of pocket. It's just totally amazing. As a side note, in this example, that payment difference for getting the 5% assistance as compared to the 3%, which is $8,000 difference in cash, was just $66 a month. That's a lot of cash for a small difference in monthly mortgage payment. That's why I said more than likely the 5% down option is best. Another program feature, but one that's a little tricky to get, is the MMP SmartBuy 3.0. This program pays off up to $20,000 of your student loan debt at closing. But there's a kicker that all your student loan debt needs to be paid off to qualify. It seems a little silly, but if you have 2 $20,000 loans, you can't just pay off one of them. You need to pay off both at closing in order to get this credit. Now, the amount that they give you is forgivable over 5 years, with 20% forgiven annually. It also requires at least a 720 credit score, which I personally think that should be a lot lower. And this is only for conventional loans. You cannot use the SmartBuy 3.0 student loan program with FHA or VA. And separately, we have yet another MMP option, which is choosing the First Time Advantage 6000. It's specifically designed for lower priced homes and a partner match program, which can give you an additional $2,500 down payment assistance. But let's say you have all your own cash and you don't need any of this down payment assistance money. Is there any reason for you to use Maryland Mortgage Program? Surprisingly, the answer is yes. MMP offers standard rates to everyone regardless of their credit score and the property type. You know, loan pricing today is very confusing. As I discussed in this video that I'll link above, and as an example, lower credit score buyers purchasing a condo can see a significantly higher market rate. But with MMP's standard pricing, that buyer could see significant rate improvement and obviously a much lower payment. But before I continue, if you find yourself a little confused on this menu of MMP offerings, first of all, you're not alone, but know that that's my job, is to make this easy for you. We use our experience with your personal situation to identify the best overall structure. So don't worry about trying to be an expert on all of this all by yourself. Let us be your expert. But if you like researching on your own, you can totally check out my special MMP calculator that I'll also link in the description. Just enter a few pieces of information and a detailed payment and cost analysis will appear for all available MMP options. It's a fantastic tool. I hope you enjoy it. So how do you know if you qualify? You know, there's a difference between what's available for first-time versus non-first-time homebuyer. So let's clarify an important point about who qualifies as a first-time homebuyer, because there are significant impacts to the options that exist in MMP. For MMP, a first-time homebuyer is someone who hasn't owned a home at any time within the past 3 years. MMP reviews ownership with everyone living in the household, including non-borrowing spouses. Like, your husband or wife is not on the loan with you, but you're both on the deed, they're living in the house. They're going to make sure that both of you are first-time homebuyers. But why is this important? Because some of the program's biggest advantages are reserved exclusively for first-time homebuyers, meeting that specific definition. First-time homebuyers have access to all 3 down payment assistance levels, the 3%, 4%, 5%, as well as the exclusive features like the SmartBuy. Non-first-time homebuyers, those who have owned a property within the last 3 years, are still eligible to participate, but the options are a bit more limited. You would still qualify for the basic program, but only the 3% down payment assistance option. And the mortgage rate for that one's typically about 0.5% higher compared to the first-time homebuyer. You know, MMP also has income limits that are based on your total household size. There are really 2 categories. One for 1 to 2 people, and then a higher limit for 3 people or more. In addition, to encourage development in some areas, they've designated them as targeted areas, which allow for even higher income limits. And I'll be sure to put a link for the map and the income limits and all the Maryland targeted areas in the description below. To be clear, these income limits are juicy, ranging from a low of $136,000 for 2 people all the way up to $229,000 for 3 people, depending on the county. But it's not just about your income. There are also limits on the price of the home you can buy and the maximum loan amount you can receive. And you have to stay within all those limits. But let's look at a real-world example, effective May 2025, to go ahead and make this a little more clearer. We'll compare non-targeted areas of Anne Arundel County, Maryland to Charles County. In Anne Arundel, the income limit for a 1 to 2 person household is $136,529. For a household of 3 or more, that limit increases to $157,000. The home price cannot exceed $759,000 with a maximum loan amount of $731,000. In Charles County, the income limits are much higher. A 1 to 2 person household can make up to $196,000. And a household of 3 or more can make up to $229,000. The maximum purchase price jumps all the way up to a whopping $1.25 million with a maximum loan amount of $806,000. I still can't figure out a scenario where someone would ever pay $1.2 million for a home and use MMP to borrow $806,000, but those are the limits. As you can see, every Maryland county is different, which is why it's so important to work with a local expert that knows these specific program details inside and out. Now, this is very important. When we talk about your income with MMP, they look at all income, all household income. It's the combined income of all people 18 years of age or older, and it includes all forms of income, including salaries, bonuses, overtime, retirement income, side hustles, investment gains. If that income hits your tax return, that income is counted. There's also an asset test. For homebuyers who have liquid assets of at least 20% of the sale price, they might not be eligible to use MMP. A liquid asset is basically all your after-tax savings and investments, including any gift funds that you might receive from family. Like most special programs, they're designed to be used by the people who need it the most, and that's why they put all these extra little restrictions. Now, there are a few potential downsides that you need to know. For one, refinancing could be a little bit tougher. The down payment assistance is a recorded lien. When refinancing, this must be paid off, potentially impacting your ability to refinance. Next, you have competitive challenges. In early 2020s, Maryland mortgage program buyers found it very difficult to win, especially when things got really competitive, where sellers prefer quick closings without perceived complexities of some other government agency that needs to approve things. But thankfully, conditions have shifted in mid-2025, making now a much better time to win with MMP. And then there are online lenders and call centers. Many of them are unaware of MMP's existence, or they haven't signed up to participate. If you call them and say you only have $10,000 cash to buy a home, they often just tell you that you don't have enough because they use just traditional lending products. We learned from our earlier example that you could buy a $400,000 house and need just $8,000 in total cash. So it is possible, but many will tell you that it's not. Many dreams get crushed right there, and plans of buying a home delayed for several years, all because they received bad advice. Now, local lenders specialize in programs just like this and actively help buyers unlock opportunities for homeownership. Now, I know what you're thinking. What if I don't qualify? Or maybe your realtor says using MMP will make your offer weaker and you'll lose the house. But don't worry, because there are still other options to leverage other first-time homebuyer programs. And I'm going to reveal exactly what they are and how to use them to your advantage in this next video right here. So click now and I'll meet you there.